Hey, it's MJ from the Coaches Panel. I hope you're well. Welcome back to another free agency and trade review where I look over every single player that's moved clubs this off-season, tell you what it means for the club they've left, the club they've now arrived to, and wrap it up all together for you from a SuperCoach and AFL Fantasy perspective, and hopefully give you some insights about what could, what might, or what should happen with this player and the subsequent teams that they've been involved with, both in the arrival and the departure. Talking about Jade Gresham today. He's departed the Saints. He's now part of the Essendon Football Club. Let's talk about what it means for St Kilda first, and then we'll move our way over to what it means for Essendon. From a St Kilda perspective, he played 20 plus games this year, and for a long period of time, outside of when injury has hit, he's been a really valuable piece to their puzzle. He's been this guy that showed moments of brilliance and class forward of the ball, especially inside forward 50, and especially in 2019. I know that feels a while ago now, but in 2019, he was on what I thought was a really nice trajectory of becoming a really handy, classy clearance winner for St Kilda. He showed moments, I know it's a few years back now, but he showed moments and times where his contested rate of winning clearances and stoppages was really tracking quite nicely. And I thought, this is a player that not just for fantasy purposes, but in a general football sense, really could be a star. The reality is, not just under Ross Lyon, but over the years since 2019, where I thought he was at his best, he's not quite hit his peak. He's not quite found his niche as a forward half. He's not a crummer, although he can do that. He's a really dynamic, classy X-Factor type player who in one-on-one moments, who in the opportunity to take an opposition player on, has look and does look really damaging. But at St Kilda, he never really got massive amount of midfield minutes and had that translate to fantasy scoring, and same with the forward line. So he kind of got stuck. And not here, not there, not really anywhere. What we know about St Kilda is, although they've got some nice pieces of the puzzle around them, they're generally crying out for another star player with X Factor. Gresham could be that, but he's not become that just yet at this point in time of his career. And I think St Kilda are happy to cut their losses. Given they've got, I think, pretty nice compensation for him, I think they'll happily now go to the draft, either by bundling up a bunch of picks or by really jumping in early. Ross Lyon, their coach, and their list management team have been really adamant that they want to get another high-quality star player in. They got some really good, really nice ones in over the past couple of years. Nazaya Wanganeen Millera, Mateus Philippou, both South Australian kids and very different, but really, really got some nice class. Mitch Owens, I think, is going to be an absolute superstar of the competition when he builds out and starts to spend some more time through the midfield. So as much as I think they'd like to have kept Gresham, I don't think they're going to be drastically disappointed. That midfield's starting to take shape. I think their forward line, when it's at their best, and he's floated between those two lines, I think it's quite solid. I think Butler's a really nice small forward. He's a premiership player at Richmond. I think Higgins is quite a nice player. And if Membry can get himself back to playing AFL, and also Max King stays fit, it's a really nice core four to build around. And we know that midfield, although it might be a little bit one-paced at times without a fit Zach Jones, we know it's got no problems in and around the contest and a really nice midfield. So I think from a St Kilda perspective, he's the type of player they want, a classy user of the ball that's capable of impacting through the midfield and through the forward line. But he's just not turned out to be exactly what they'd hoped. And so I think they're happy to see him move on. From an Essendon perspective of where he's landed, again, that midfield, I feel like it's in a really nice place. Merritt, Parrish, Hobbs, I really like. Setterfield showed some really nice moments and had some good fantasy scoring for us in the early portion of the year prior to his injury. So to me, I'm really interested to see how, under the Essendon coaching regime, they choose to use Jade Gresham. Like I said, he's shown glimpses and moments over his career that he can be a really crafty, smart forward. Yeah, on the smaller side, but really dynamic type. Not quite the Stevie J magician type, if you want to throw back a bygone era, but it's got some Menzel type traits, and Daniel Menzel that I'm referring to, by the way, just this guy that can really in a one-on-one moment show some moments of brilliance and class. So I do like Jade Gresham forward of the ball and inside forward 50, and one of the things that Essendon need is more weapons inside forward 50. They, for a lot of the year, were without some of their key tools, and especially Peter Wright, but they generally lack a potent forward line. And Langford did a fantastic job at being potent for them, but they just need more avenues to goal. And so I think if they can get certain players fit and healthy, and Gresham adds into this, I think he could be a nice dynamic to them. He's an option for their midfield, but I'm not sold that he's going to get a heap of time through there. You got guys like Archie Perkins, who I think are probably ahead of him at the moment. Dylan Shield didn't even get much of a midfield go at all. And again, at time of recording, there's speculation he's moving on, but it doesn't seem likely at this stage that he's departing the Essendon Bombers. So for me, I think Gresham might spend a little more time as an anchored forward with the odd moment through the midfield. And as a result, when we think about what this means for SuperCoach and AFL Fantasy, I think he'll retain his mid-forward status, which is what he had as we ended the 2023 season. I think he'll have that in 2024. He's had moments where he could be really, really good. I think just back 12 months ago, there's about 10, 12 points per game of upside of what he did in 22 to what he's going to be priced at after ending 2023. And I think it's up to 20 points per game in SuperCoach. So there's definitely a little bit of value there, which means for drafts, you're probably going to get him, unless there's a bullish Essendon fan in your league, you're probably going to get him if you think he can get back to what he's done in 2022. And they're not isolated years where he's going 80 plus. Like, he's done this at scatterings across his career. So I think there's a little bit of value on where you'll be able to get him on draft day. Again, barring a really overhyped pre-season in the classic or salary cap formats of the community, or a bullish Essendon fan, I think you'll get him a little bit late. There is a little bit of fat on the bone for you to be considering him in classic, especially if we don't get the replenishment of top end forwards that people are hoping with the DPPs. We're going to lose a lot of the top 10 this year to midfield and to the back line. There are a lot of nice options still in the forward line. We'll talk about them through January and February of 2024's preseason, but there's enough there to keep an eye on him, especially if he does pick up a more favourable midfield role than he does a more favourable forward split. I think he's going to spend his time through both. My initial analysis, he's probably more forward than mid, but if we see a levelling out or a more weightiness to the midfield, then I think he can probably jump up your watch list. But for draft coaches, absolutely somebody you're going to get some value on what your price is in terms of the price of positioning of draft. While for salary cappers, I think there's going to be a little bit of value to at least consider keeping an eye on what his role exactly looks like. I don't think it will be enough just yet, but it's way too early to be ruling him out, because there is upside of potentially 10 to 20 points per game, depending on the format you play. Do you agree or disagree on my take, though, on Jade Gresham? You can comment below and let me know what you think about Jade and his SuperCoach and AFL Fantasy prospects. If you haven't followed us on the channel here, make sure you do and turn on the notifications so that as soon as a player moves clubs this trade and free agency period, you will get this video and you'll get notified of it straight away. You can follow us on X, on Instagram, on Facebook. You can check us out there. We've got podcasts landing in the preseason and right through the season proper. Wherever you get your podcasts, you can just search for the Coaches Panel and you'll find us there. And lastly, if you want to become a financial supporter of the Coaches Panel, you can get some additional bonus content and hidden rewards, exclusive community groups, and more. Our Patreon groups, the tiers start for as low as just $2 a month. All the details you can find in the description of this video. I look forward to you joining us again with another player review of someone that's moved clubs, where we find out whether they're SuperCoach, AFL Fantasy, or Dream Team relevant for you in 2024.